In today's lesson, we're going to review perimeter and get into the area of rectangles and triangles. So just as a quick reminder, perimeter, remember that's the distance around an object, meaning the sum of all the sides. So the perimeter shape is the total length of its sides. To find the perimeter, all you have to do is just add all the sides. All right, so here's some quick examples of perimeters, and these are just kind of written out. So we have this first rectangle right here. And in this rectangle, we have a side measure of 5 and 3. Remember, opposite sides in a rectangle are the same, so we have a 5, a 3, and a 5, and another 3, because this bottom side is 5 and this side is 3. You add them all up, and you get a total area, total perimeter of 16 meters. That's a pretty easy example. When you have regular numbers, you just add them up, get your answer, and you're good to go. So number 2, we have another rectangle. But this time, instead of having single numbers on the ends, like 5 and 3, we have actual expressions, 4x minus 7 and 2x minus 3. So it's the same thing. We write out our expression. So for the expression, we're going to add the 4 sides. So again, this is my expression right here. We start off with 2x minus 3, which is the left side, 4x minus 7, which is the bottom side. Then we know that the right side is also 2x minus 3. And the top is also 4x minus 7, whether you choose to write it or not. And then that's why we add 2x minus 3 and 4x minus 7 again. So we have 4 pieces that add up to our amount. Now, if you do not want to write it out this way, you have the option of doing it another way, which is the following. So underneath the or. So 2x minus 3 shows up twice, so we put a 2 in front of it. And 4x minus 7 twice, so it's 2 of 2x minus 3 and 2 of 4x minus 7. So either one of those expressions works for our perimeter. Now we go ahead and simplify it, which means we combine all the x's. In this case, we combine 2x with 4x with 2x with 4x. That gives us 12x. And then we combine the negative 3 with the negative 7, the negative 3 with the negative 7, which gives us negative 20. So it's just, again, the expression, and then combine everything is a simplification. Last one says there's no picture, but it's in words, so you have to read it out or annotate it as you read it out. We still want the perimeter of something called a regular pentagon, where the side lengths are x plus 3. So a pentagon has 5 sides, so it looks something like this. Regular means all the sides are equal, and in this case they're all x plus 3. I'm not going to write it on all the sides, but all of them are exactly the same. So that's where our expression comes from, x plus 3 once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and 5 times. If we go ahead and combine like terms, we have x 5 times, so it's 5x. We have 3 5 times, or 3 times 5 is 15. And that is our perimeter. And actually, that was the final answer. That was down there. What I actually wanted on this line is the following. Sorry about that. You could have also written it in a shorter way, x plus 3, 5 times. And if you do the distributive property, you also get the answer down here. All right, that's pretty much a quick review of perimeter. Is just the sum of all the sides. Now we're going to get into area and what area is. So before we get into the actual notes, let's go ahead and just take a quick look at how do you find area. This is just a quick little review. So who uses area? So in a lot of jobs you will use area, like architecture, carpenters use area, home decorators use area, engineers, tile layers, painters, and many, many other jobs, as well as you guys, students. All right, so how is it that we find area, and what is area? So the area is the amount of surface enclosed by a figure or an object. So if you were to surround something, the perimeter, whatever is inside of a perimeter, all the space inside a perimeter is considered the area. And when we talk about area, we find the area of shapes or spaces when it comes to houses and so on. So you measure the area by counting the number of square units that will fill in the figure completely. So if you were to break up the floor of a room into little equal squares of the same size, you would count those squares, and that would be the area in whatever measurement you're using. So we usually use square units. So 1 unit squared, it can be feet squared, centimeters squared, or any other unit squared. and that's why the power of 2 is called a square. So if I were to look at our notes, which is what we're going to look at now, we're going to go ahead and look at what is the surface of something, right? The area of some measurement. So let's go ahead and look at this. So here in this rectangle, I can go ahead and break it up into equal squares. So here we're talking about meters because it's 5m and 3m. So I'm going to split up one direction into 5 parts. Usually they would be perfectly equal, but again, I'm doing this by hand. So it's split up into 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I drew 4 lines. And the other direction, I'm going to split it in 3. I'm going to draw 2 lines, 1, 2. So now I have 3 in this direction, 1, 2, 3. So the idea here is the area would be how many squares we end up with. If you go ahead and count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So there's a total of 15 squares. So the area of this shape is 15 meters square or 15 square meters. Now, we don't want to have to do this every single time. So this is where formulas come in, which make our life easier. So this is where we're going to use the formula for the area of a rectangle, and then we'll talk about the area of a triangle as well. So for the area of a rectangle, we just do the base times height. We had 15 as our area here, or here 15. So a fast way of doing that with the 5 and the 3 is just to go ahead and multiply them. So the area of a rectangle will always be the base times the height, or you can also use the length times the width. So one side measure versus its opposite side measure. And it's now for the area of a triangle, if we look at a triangle can be made up of a rectangle. So if you take a rectangle and split it in 2, using a diagonal, you get 2 equal triangles. So the area of a triangle would just be half of a rectangle. So it's half base times height. So the area of a rectangle, base times height. The area of a triangle, there's 2 triangles in a rectangle, so it would be half of it if you wanted the area of just one. So let's go ahead and do examples 1, 2, and 3 and figure out the areas. All right, so for number 1, we have the area of this rectangle. Remember, it's just base times height. Area is just base times height. The base would be this measurement. If you get them backwards, it doesn't matter. So it'd be 2x plus 6. I'm going to use parentheses because it's a binomial. The height would be this one right here, which is x plus 3. And I'm going to multiply them. Again, it's not as easy as 5 times 3, but we can still do it. So we're going to do the multiplication. We use our box. 2x plus 6 and x plus 3. And we're going to go ahead and do all the multiplication. So we get 2x squared, 6x, and 18. So now we're going to go ahead and write out our answer. We have 2x squared. We combine like terms of the 6 x's. We get 12x, and then we have 18. And that is our final area measurement. Now it's not a nice regular number. It's going to be an expression. And we're done with this one. Let's go ahead and move on to number 2. All right, now we have the area of a, and again, this is not a rectangle, it's a triangle. I'm not sure if it's wrong on your paper. All right, let's go ahead and find the area of the rectangle. So we know that the formula is, area is base times height, but it's half of the base times height. So I'm going to put half. The base is this 2x minus 6. And the height is x plus 3. So it's very similar to the previous one. We just have to divide our answer by 2. I'm going to put the little box here on the side just to have room. We have 2x minus 6 and x plus 3. We have 2x squared, 6x, negative 6x, and negative 18. Now we're going to go ahead and write our answer. So we still have the 1/2. I'm going to write out my answer in parentheses because it's attached by the 1/2 and we have to multiply, otherwise we'll mess up our answer. So we start off with 2x squared. We combine these right here. But those are going to eliminate because 6 minus 6 is 0, so we don't put anything. Or you can put plus 0x if you want, and then just minus 18. Now, the area of a triangle is just half of what I just got. So I'm going to take each of these two and I'm going to distribute the 1/2. Or just pretty much divide them by 2. So half means divide by 2. So what's half of 2? You get 1x squared, or just x squared if you don't want the 1. And what's half of 18 is 9, so we have minus 9. And I'm done. Let's move on to the last one. All right, so we have this rectangle and 4 little corners are cut out. So that means we're removing area. So we're removing 4 equal pieces. So we're going to find an expression for the remaining area. So we're going to just find the area of the big square. So it's going to be base times height. So area is base times height, right? So we're going to do 24 minus times 18. We get 432. Now this is the area of the entire square, but we have to take into account the removal of those 4 little squares on the corners. So we're going to figure out the base and height of the 4 of these. So it's going to be 4 base times height, because there's 4 equal. They're all the same. So we end up with 4. The base and the height of each square is x times x, or just 4x squared. And remember, since we're removing the pieces, we're going to be subtracting, so my answer should be 432 minus 4x squared. And this is my final answer. We subtract again because we are removing, and we cannot subtract 432 with 4x squared because they're not common terms. So go ahead and start working on your practice pages, and good luck.